Hello again. Environment Minister Barbara Creecy says that the decommissioning of coal-fired power plants will likely be delayed by up to 2 years. She says this would give South Africa enough time to meet its net zero targets of reducing emissions by 2030. She's also explained that a decision on the car power ships arrangement, or those ships coming to South Africa, I should say, will be made within 57 days of an application being submitted. Well, someone who can explain more about what the Minister has been telling us today is Govan Whittles. He's with me now on set. Govan, good to see you. Let's start with the issue of the decommissioning of the power plants. We had already had an indication that their lifespan for some of them would be extended. What's Minister Creecy telling you?
We knew that the lifespan would be extended because some of them are performing so well. What we didn't know is by how long and what the impact of this would be on South Africa's obligations towards the just energy transition. So to put it into context, the 3 power stations that are meant to be decommissioned in 2025 are Hendrina, as well as Camden and Grootvlei. Hendrina and Camden are currently performing very well. The electricity minister himself says it wouldn't make sense to take them offline in the middle of an energy emergency. So they'll try to keep them running for beyond 2025. We spoke to Barbara Creecy about what the modeling says about when that's likely to be taken offline. And this is what she had to say.
Our department is participating in a modelling exercise that National Treasury is undertaking with regard to the decommissioning schedule for some of our aging power stations. And what we understand from that process is that our commitments in terms of the nationally determined contribution to reduce greenhouse gases that were submitted to the UNFCCC in October 2021, those commitments, in our view, can still be met if you delay the decommissioning of some of the units of some of the power stations by a year or 2.
A possible alternative intervention, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to South Africa's energy issue, has to do with car power ships. Some environmentalists are anti. We've just had in the last while, I think the granting of docking licenses. Is Minister Creecy telling us anything new about whether we are really moving in the direction, and if so, how soon?
Well, this is a sensitive conversation for her because she essentially has to decide on whether or not a car power ship, if everything goes well, will be able to prevent damages to the environment. So there's 3 things that the environmental activists are really worried about. Firstly, the water that's pumped, the seawater that's pumped through the ship heats up. And they don't want the car power ship to throw that water back into the sea, that hot water. Secondly, they're worried about the noise that the vessel would make and the impact on marine life. And then thirdly, they're obviously worried about the emissions and the impact that would have. Those are the 3 hoops that car power ship has to jump through in the environmental impact assessment. That's essentially what Barbara Creecy's department will be deciding. Since she isn't deciding that yet, a Business Day article reporting the car power ship will withdraw the application, rework it to include those 3 factors and submit it again. She'll talk about the process. And what we know now is that the car power ship application would form part of the new regime, which would essentially limit the number of days it takes to make that decision from 107 down to 57. Let's take a look.
I live in this country. I feel the anguish that our citizens face, and I believe as an elected public representative, I have a duty to do everything I can to ensure that my department sticks to the time frames, which we have already reformed. And so it has been practice, and I can share with you, we've been doing this since January last year. It's been practice that the environmental assessment section would from time to time in our management meetings present a report that would say we have got 10 projects. Project number 1 is at this phase, it's got so many days to go. Project number 2 is running behind time. Project number 3 is running on time. And then I would ask the Director General to take necessary steps if she thought it appropriate to get those projects back on track within the 57 days.
Thank you.
So we're not talking about making inadequate decisions. What we're talking about is making proper decisions within a speedier time frame.
That's Environment Minister Barbara Creecy. Govan, let's talk about, just this. The Environment Minister will also have to make decisions at some point that may help direct the future of South Africa's power generation. But also yesterday, the Electricity Minister, Hosian Suramokopa, was out and about wanting to see firsthand where things stand. A bleak winter is what he's able to tell us at this point.
He is indeed. What's interesting about this energy crisis is that on the one hand, Barbara Creecy is trying to speed up the environmental impact assessments for over 9,000 megawatts of renewable energy. That could go a long way in mitigating load shedding. On the other hand, the Electricity Minister, Hosian Suramokopa, says that if we bring a power ship to South Africa, he thinks the deal should be limited to at most 5 years, because by then the IPPs would come online. And then here at Newzroom, the Finance Minister, Kodongwana, telling another show that he's behind a 20-year deal for the car power ship, or at least has been discussing it with the Energy Minister, Gwede Mantashe. So there certainly are a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And at this point, we haven't seen them come out with a meal that is able to solve our problems.
Well, if they're baking a cake, we hope it doesn't flop. Govan Whittles, thank you very much for that.